What is up, everybody? Welcome back to RacingDudes.com. And, last week we did a video on Bob Baffert and kind of the situation with Churchill Downs and everything going on. And, listen, we are a handicapping site first and foremost. So we don't do a ton of racing news and our opinions on it. We might give them on our podcast or whatever, but we try to keep it to handicapping. Well, we got a big response off of the Bob Baffert thing. So I thought, maybe one video a week where we kind of cover, the big news in the industry. And if there is no news, maybe we don't do it that week, but kind of do a video on the big news. I think people will enjoy it. Well, the big news, unfortunately, this weekend, really sad. Golden Gate Fields is going to close, announced by the Stronach Group that Golden Gate Fields will close in an effort to try to boost Santa Anita field size and maybe get them more race dates. So, by the way, Pollock Report was the first that I saw to report this. If somebody else reported it first, I apologize, but I read it on the Pollock Report. I'm not on Twitter, so I have no idea who actually reported this first. But again, Pollock Report is where I read it. So, look, this is not good, I don't think. Anytime a racetrack closes, it's a little depressing. And I think, when you're in the industry, you kind of have this thing of, okay, Arlington Park closed last year. Golden Gate Fields is going to close at the end of this year. Hollywood Park, obviously, years ago, but that was still a big closure. Turf Paradise, we don't have a date, but they're most likely going to be closed at some point. The problem is we're losing tracks. And one thing you never hear in the news is, hey, they want to build a new racetrack, right? So we're basically losing tracks with no expansion in place. Now, you think about Chicago, you think about San Francisco, and my buddy Paul Withrow texted me this. He goes, there's 10 million people roughly living in Chicago and San Francisco in the area. They now have no horse track. So you may have holdover from some of the older people or even my generation getting ready to turn 40 where, yeah, they may stick with horse racing because they've been to Arlington. They've been to Golden Gate Fields and maybe they stick with it, but it's going to be hard to breed new fans or bring new fans into the game when there's no track at those major markets for them to go to. So that's kind of the downside of it. Obviously, that's two big markets where there's no horse racing. Now, obviously Chicago still has Hawthorne and that's great. But Arlington was kind of the track to bring new people to the game. Not saying you can't at Hawthorne, that's not a slight on Hawthorne. Arlington was kind of the quote-unquote glamour track, that it had hosted a Breeders' Cup. It was a beautiful facility. Hawthorne's kind of the, not that, even though it serves a great purpose, and it's not a bad track to bet. This is not Hawthorne hate. It's just kind of the reality is Arlington was kind of the big Chicago track. It's gone. And obviously Golden Gate has nothing, or San Francisco has nothing now without Golden Gate. Another thing is, man, so many employees, and where do they go? Maybe they can be relocated, maybe they can't. I mean, a lot of people are going to lose jobs. Let's just kind of, maybe some of them won't, but a lot of people are out of jobs. That's not good either. Listen, Santa Anita is in big trouble, in my opinion, because of the field sizes. I mean, it is really bad, and there's just no sugarcoating it. Santa Anita, their big days, you look at their cards and you go, oh man, this is Santa Anita. This is what it should be. Opening day and their big stakes, days, day in and day out, man. That is just not a good situation out there. So I get it. You're going to try to consolidate. You're going to try to get those horses there to fill your fields. I think it's a really good idea in theory. And I think for the state of racing, I think in theory, they're trying to make a decision that will help. I'm a little skeptical because, I think the biggest thing is Golden Gate horses aren't really Santa Anita horses for the most part. There are some that can go down there and win, but Santa Anita is going to have to write some cheaper races for these horses. A lot of those horses are at Golden Gate because they can't really compete on the Southern California circuit. So, Santa Anita is going to have to really just write some races that Golden Gate would normally write. And I don't really know if they'll do that or not. I think that's going to be really interesting when that first condition book comes out, when they're going to consolidate these horses. I think that'll be really interesting to see, because here's the deal. Like, I own a horse, right? Husker Butch, and his highest buyer he's ever run is a 63. but he's got to win in a second up at Prairie Meadows, right? Because that's his level. That's where he needs to be. Well, let's pretend Prairie Meadows closed down to consolidate horses at Oaklawn. Okay, now, first of all, they're not owned by the same people. Second of all, Oaklawn has no problem getting numbers, but let's pretend it's a world where they are owned by the two. The ownership is the same ownership has both tracks, and Oaklawn's struggling. I can't go down with Husker, but we can't go down with Husker Butch and win a normal Oaklawn race. It's not going to happen. So would Oaklawn cater to these new horses coming in and ride a race or two where they can run and compete? I don't know if they would. I don't know what Santa Anita will do and how they'll really handle it. But if I'm at California and I've got a horse up there at Golden Gate because that's where he can compete, I'm not necessarily going to go down to Santa Anita just to get fifth in a race, with horses that I can't compete with. I may look at a smaller track, like an Emerald Downs would be an example. If Prairie Meadows was to close and we had Husker Butch up there, we would look at like a Canterbury, right? Because that's kind of the same level. So Santa Anita, I think it's an idea that's good. I think, listen, they don't have enough horses really at Golden Gate either for full fields. So consolidate, try to get one track where all these horses run and we get big full fields. You're going to have to cater to these guys a little bit. You're going to have to write cheaper races. You're going to have to write maybe some restricted races for these horses to run in to really make that work. Or what's going to happen is maybe some of them will come down, they'll get beat a lot, and they'll go somewhere a little bit softer. That's just the reality of it. So it'll be interesting to see how Santa Anita handles that. So look, for Santa Anita, hopefully this is going to be a big positive, right? Because the good thing that can come out of it is if they can get it worked out where those horses will enter and they've got 8 or 9 horses in a race, every race, instead of 4 and 5 and even sometimes 3, it's going to help. And that's going to be really good for Santa Anita. I'm just skeptical that's going to happen. But for horse racing as a whole, another big blow, right? I mean, look, Golden Gate, I don't think nationwide is a very popular track, but it gets a lot of play in California. It gets a lot of page views on our site, to be honest. That's kind of how I kind of track popularity. A lot of people go to that page. During March and April, February, that's the 5th most visited track that we have on the site, and that's just behind the big ones that run during that time period. So it's not great, it's not. And I hate that people are going to lose jobs. That's awful. I hate that trainers that have maybe been there forever now have to relocate, whether it be Santa Anita or somewhere else. That is just a bad deal. But it's where we're at right now, and it's kind of the reality of it. Consolidation probably is going to happen in more places than what we're seeing, I would think, before this thing's all said and done. Doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. So that's kind of the positives and negatives that I see of it. If you loved Golden Gate, I feel terrible for you, just like Arlington Park last year. If you loved Arlington, there's no words that I can really say. It's awful, and I can't imagine if I woke up one day and they were closing Oaklawn Park or Remington Park, or Prairie Meadows. It would be an awful day. So I feel for you guys. Sorry about it. Hopefully something good can come out of it. With this sport, you just never know. You never really know. All right, enough negativity. Thanks everybody for watching this video. You can comment and tell me how dumb I am one way or the other. I'm sure you will. Got a lot. I was told I don't read them. I got a lot on the Baffert situation. One thing, I'll close with this. I'm not, other than Kelly Von Hemel, who is a friend of mine and trains my, the horses that I have, I'm really not biased towards anybody else or any other company or whatever in the industry. I'm really not. I am totally biased towards the Von Hemels, and I'll tell you that. But I'm not a Bob Baffert lover. I'm not a CDI lover or hater. I don't hate Stronach. I just kind of look at and say what it is, right? I don't hate the East Coast, love the West Coast. I don't, hate the West Coast, love the East. I live in the middle of the country. I don't have any bias other than the Von Hemels. So I really just come in here and tell you what I think and tell you kind of the reality of the situation. So, all right, guys, thanks everybody for watching this video. Hit the like button if you like it. Hit subscribe if you really like it. I don't know. Hopefully we'll be back next week with maybe a positive story, but seems to be all negative right now. All right, guys, thanks for watching.
RacingNews.com is your home for the best free picks for every race, every track. Summer's here. Our picks are heating up. We want you to join us in the fun. Subscribe to the Racing Dudes YouTube channel right now. Click the notification bell. You don't want to miss a single one of our awesome videos. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.